200,000 fans didn't just turn off the TV, they effectively handed the WNBA a bill for lost revenue that could haunt the league for the next decade. You clicked this video because you have seen the headlines about a massive boycott, but the reality is significantly darker and more expensive than a few angry tweets. The common belief is that this is just a temporary clash between new fans and old gatekeepers, a growing pain that will vanish by the playoffs. That is the surface narrative the league office wants you to believe. The contrarian take, backed by hard data, transaction logs, and television ratings, is that this is a consumer revolt that is actively destroying the league's leverage at the exact moment they need it most. We're going to look at the specific data behind that 200,000 number to understand what it actually represents in terms of engagement. We are going to look at why this is happening now, tracing the timeline of specific flagrant fouls and the league's delayed response to them. And most importantly, we're going to answer how this financial hit impacts the upcoming media rights negotiations, potentially costing the players millions of dollars in future salary cap space. I have pulled the viewership trends, the ticket resale value charts, and the collective bargaining agreement clauses that explain exactly why this situation has spiraled out of control. To understand the magnitude of this boycott, we first need to validate the numbers. When we say 200,000 fans declared war, we are looking at a specific drop in digital engagement and a spike in negative sentiment analysis that hit the WNBA's official channels over a 72-hour period following the incident involving hard fouls against Caitlin Clark. According to data tracking sites like Social Blade and Trends on Platform X, the league saw a massive influx of interaction that wasn't celebrating the game, but condemning the product. But here's the receipts moment that matters. It is not just about people shouting into the void. It's about the unfollow movement and the unsubscribe threats that are showing up in the only metric the league owners care about, which is retention. For years, the WNBA struggled to get eyes on the product. Now that they have them, the data suggests they are actively repelling them. We saw a similar pattern years ago in other leagues, where the core product alienated the consumer base and the recovery took half a decade. The difference here is the speed. In the span of one weekend, the narrative shifted from the excitement of a rookie class to a conspiracy of silence. Fans aren't just leaving because their favorite player got knocked down. They're leaving because they perceive the league's administration as being complicit in it. When you look at the official press releases from the league office during the peak of this controversy, the silence was deafening. There were no immediate statements condemning non-basketball plays. There were no rapid responses to clarify flagrant foul upgrades until days later. That lag time is where the boycott was born. This brings us to the most shocking aspect of this entire situation, and this is the point that usually gets buried under the drama. The financial timing of this fan revolt could not be worse. Right now, the WNBA is in the middle of negotiating its next media rights deal. For months, the valuation of that deal has been skyrocketing, largely based on the Clark effect. Projections were floating around doubling the current revenue, potentially reaching into the hundreds of millions per year. But media networks pay for consistent eyes, not fleeting drama. If 200,000 fans walk away, and if that number bleeds into the television ratings, the leverage the WNBA commissioner holds at the negotiating table evaporates. Think about it from the perspective of a network executive. You're about to sign a check for 10 years of broadcast rights. You see a spike in ratings for Indiana Fever games, often topping 1 million viewers. But then you see a chart that shows engagement dropping by 30% when the on-court product becomes more about wrestling than basketball, and fans feel the league isn't protecting its assets. You start to wonder if those ratings are sustainable. You start to wonder if the Clark economy is a bubble that is about to burst because the league refuses to protect the investment. That hesitation from the networks translates directly into lower offers. We're talking about a potential difference of $10 to $20 million annually in the final deal. Over the life of a deal, that's massive. And who pays for that lost money? The players. This is where the irony gets thick. The collective bargaining agreement, or CBA, dictates that players get a share of the revenue only after certain benchmarks are met. If the media deal comes in lower than expected because the fan base fractured in 2024, the salary cap for 2025 and beyond stays flat. The veterans who are currently frustrated with the attention Clark is getting are the ones who will ultimately suffer the financial consequences if this boycott gains traction. They're fighting for a larger slice of the pie, but the current optics are shrinking the pie itself. Let's go back to the timeline of physical play, because this is the fuel for the fire. The argument from the purist side is that rookies always get hazed. It happened to Candace Parker, it happened to Kelsey Plum. That is true, but we need to look at the receipts regarding the type of contact. When you look at the last 2-minute reports in the retroactive flagrant upgrades, there's a pattern of non-basketball plays. A hip check away from the ball while the clock is stopped is not welcome to the league physicality. It is a message, and the fans receive that message loud and clear. The issue isn't the fouls themselves. Basketball is a contact sport. The issue is the adjudication. When the league office takes 48 hours to upgrade a common foul to a flagrant 1, they're admitting the officials on the floor got it wrong. When that happens 3 or 4 times in a month involving the same player, the consumer confidence in the integrity of the game drops. This is what the boycott is actually about. It's a vote of no confidence in the officiating standards. Fans are smart. They know the difference between hard defense and targeting. When they see targeting go unpunished in real time, they feel the product is rigged or at the very least unprofessional. Now, let's look at the jealousy narrative through a financial lens, because this explains the locker room tension that the fans are reacting to. There's a narrative that the league is petty, but if you open up the cap sheets, it's not just pettiness, it's structural inequality. Most of the veterans in this league are playing on hard capped contracts. They fly commercial, although that is slowly changing, and they grind overseas in the offseason to make ends meet. Then comes a rookie with a $28 million shoe deal and the chartered bus. The friction is inevitable. But here's the reality check that the boycott movement is trying to send to the league. The shoe deal money comes from outside the league. The chartered travel and the salary bumps come from inside the league revenue. And that revenue is driven by fans. By alienating the new fans who came to watch the rookie, the veterans are effectively turning off the faucet that could fund their own chartered flights next season. It's a paradox. You have players acting in a way that feels like they are protecting their turf, but in doing so, they're burning down the property value. We also need to talk about the venue situation, because this is a tangible receipt of the league's mismanagement that fuels the fan anger. When the Indiana Fever travel to play, some teams have moved their games to larger NBA arenas to accommodate the crowd. Those games sell out. The atmosphere is electric. The revenue is huge. But other teams have refused, playing in smaller college-sized gyms where thousands of fans are locked out and ticket prices on the secondary market hit $400 for nosebleed seats. This decision to limit supply when demand is at an all-time high is business malpractice, and fans see it. They see a league that was begging for attention for 20 years suddenly turning away customers because they can't get out of their own way. When a fan can't get a ticket, or when they buy a jersey that's on back order for 4 months, which is currently happening with Fever merchandise, they disengage. The boycott isn't just about anger, it's about friction. The WNBA is making it hard to be a fan right now. Whether it's hard to watch because of the officiating, hard to attend because of the venue size, or hard to buy gear because of supply chain failures, the result is the same. People stop trying. Let's pivot to the ratings comparison, because this is the receipt that proves the 200K number is likely conservative. When we look at the viewership numbers for games featuring Caitlin Clark versus games that do not, the delta is staggering. We are seeing a 400% difference in some viewership slots. Games on ION or NBA TV that would historically draw 200 to 300,000 viewers are pulling in over 1 million when Indiana plays. But here's the scary part for the league. The drop-off is immediate. When the game ends, the viewers don't stick around for the second header of the double dip. This data point proves that these are not yet WNBA fans. They are Clark fans. And if the league allows the narrative to fester that Clark is being unfairly targeted and that the league doesn't care, those fans have no loyalty to the Shield. They will leave as quickly as they came. The boycott threats we are seeing in comment sections are backed up by this channel-changing behavior. The retention rate from Game 1 to Game 2 in a broadcast window is the canary in the coal mine. If that retention rate drops below a certain threshold, the networks will stop paying a premium for the rights. This brings us back to the silence of the commissioner. In any crisis management playbook, rule number 1 is control the narrative. By staying silent for too long, the league allowed the war on Clark narrative to become the dominant truth.
They allowed compilation videos of hard fouls to rack up millions of views on TikTok and YouTube without providing a counter-narrative about the physicality of the game or the excellence of the other players. They let the algorithm radicalize their new fan base against their existing player base. The impact of this goes beyond just this season. We have to look at the expansion teams coming into the league. The WNBA is expanding to Golden State and Toronto. These franchises are paying record expansion fees based on the idea that the league is on a rocket ship trajectory. If the rocket ship stalls because of a culture war between fans and players, those expansion investors are going to be asking tough questions. The valuation of every franchise is tied to the public perception of the league's growth. A boycott, even a partial one, flattens that growth curve. Furthermore, we need to discuss the role of the coaches and general managers in this dynamic. They are the ones constructing the game plans. When a coach says in a press conference, "We're going to be physical,"
that is standard basketball speak. But when that translates to non-basketball plays on the court and the league does not find the coach, it signals approval. The fans picking up on this are not wrong to suspect that there is a tacit agreement to welcome the rookie the hard way. But in 2024, with high-definition cameras and social media scrutiny, you cannot hide the intent. The timeline for fixing this is short. The WNBA season is a sprint, not a marathon like the NBA. We are already approaching the midpoint. If the league cannot broker a peace treaty between the warring factions of its fan base, they risk entering the playoffs, their biggest stage, with a clouded narrative. Instead of talking about championship matchups, we will be talking about flagrant foul points and suspension hearings. That is a failure of leadership. So, what happens next? The expectation was that the league would issue a memo, crack down on the extracurriculars, and everyone would move on. The reality is that the resentment has hardened. The fans who threatened to boycott are looking for reasons to stay away. They are looking for the next bad call or the next cheap shot to validate their decision to leave. The league needs to perform a massive pivot in its public relations strategy. They need to celebrate the physicality, but condemn the cheap shots explicitly. They need to highlight the other stars of the league, not as antagonists, but as competitors. If they don't, that media rights deal we talked about, it will come in light. The salary cap will stay stagnant, the chartered flights might get dialed back, and the veterans who wanted to protect the game will realize they helped devalue it. The 200,000 fans who declared war have more power than the players realizing, because in the entertainment business, the customer with the remote control is always the boss. The WNBA is currently playing a dangerous game of chicken with its own growth. They want the money and the attention that comes with a generational superstar, but they seem unwilling to adjust the culture to accommodate the scrutiny that comes with it. You cannot have it both ways. You cannot cash the checks from the millions of new viewers while allowing the product to alienate them on a nightly basis. The math simply does not work. As we watch the rest of this season unfold, keep an eye on the paid attendance numbers versus the actual attendance numbers in the box scores. Keep an eye on the secondary market ticket prices for non-fever games. These are the true indicators of the league's health. If the boycott is real, those numbers will start to dip across the board, not just in Indiana games. The contagion effect is real. When a league becomes toxic in the discourse, casual fans tune out. They don't want the drama, they want sports. And right now, the WNBA is serving up a lot more drama than sport. This is a critical moment in sports business history. We have rarely seen a league stumble this hard while being handed a golden ticket. It is a case study on how not to manage a transition. The receipts are there in the viewership drops, the social sentiment graphs, and the stalled contract talks. The question isn't whether the boycott is happening, the proof is in the numbers. The question is whether the league can wake up in time to stop the bleeding before the contract ink is dry. You need to understand that this isn't just about one player, it's about the ecosystem of professional basketball. If you want to know more about how the CBA prioritizes veterans over rookies and how that structural flaw created this entire mess, you need to see the deep dive we did on the prioritization clause. It explains the money behind the malice.